Whether it's injuries or not, the Orlando Magic have lost their identity. How they got to start to get it back today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is January 22nd, 2025. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, the Magic looked so good. We know they can do it. We saw that they could do it, but then they didn't. A really frustrating and devastating loss to the Toronto Raptors as the Magic's losing skid deepens. Their standing sink deepens, and no relief seems to be in sight. We'll talk about that game and what the Magic have lost coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. You can make Locked On Magic even bigger part of your day with the Locked On Magic daily newsletter, the one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Magic newsletter. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. We know the Orlando Magic can do it. We know it. We see it in spurts. We see it in little glimpses. How everything comes together. And frankly, it's what makes us hopeful that what we are watching right now from the Orlando Magic is just a product of the injuries. It's just a product of a team that is so worn down and just unable to play 48 minutes. That's what we hope we're seeing. And I'm an optimist. I do believe that. We're going to talk about the injuries and the factor that has played in the struggles the Magic are facing. We can't ignore it. We can't deny it. We can't get around it. But there is something deeper going on here. There is something that is disturbing. It's not just a switch you can flick on and off. Yes, the Magic are leaning on two-way player Trevelyan Queen, who does really good things, but do you want him playing 25 minutes a game? They're leaning on Caleb Houston, who is a shooter who can't shoot at this point. They're leaning on a lot of players to step up and be more than what they are capable of. We're back to talking in tanking terms, to be perfectly honest. Tanking teams, frankly, like the Toronto Raptors, are not bad because they don't have talented players. RJ Barrett is a very good player. Scotty Barnes had an amazing game. He's a very good player. They're not bad because they're bad players. They're bad because they ask players to do more than what they're capable of doing. And ultimately, right now, what has kept the Magic afloat through all the injuries they faced already was relative health through the rest of the roster. But what's kept them afloat is that players stuck to the team's identity. They were physical. They were energetic. They defended at such a high level. It did not matter that their offense was in shambles. The Magic, the Magic will have to improve their offense at some point to be the team we want them to be. It's got to happen. But the Magic can survive and certainly win games like this. What I described and why this game against Toronto and the game against Portland on Thursday are so important is those are teams you can make mistakes against. You can have a bad quarter and still be fine. What you can't do is have two bad quarters. What you can't do is not be yourself or be what your team is about. Again, the Magic are going to be bad on offense. They're going to shoot less than 30% from three. They're going to have spurts where everything looks really good. And that's usually the spurt that wins them the game because their defense is consistent throughout the course of the game. Orlando gave up a 118 defensive rating. It is their fourth straight game. Unironically, 4 straight games without Goga Bitadze. Fourth straight game where the Magic have given up more than 116 points per 100 possessions. That is not Magic basketball. The Magic are not winning games when their defense does not play well. They're averaging 107.7, 107.8 defensive rating. They're giving up 10 more points per 100 possessions than they normally would. Orlando does not have 10 more points per possession in them. Plain and simple. So all your complaints about the offense, yes, we have the trade deadline coming up. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. Yes, the Magic have to improve their offense at some point, and a lot of that's just going to come from getting healthy bodies back. But the most important piece of this team's identity is its effort, is its defense, is its physicality. And frankly, the Raptors were the better defensive team, were the more physical team, were the more energetic team throughout the game. And those are things the Magic cannot afford to lose. And so consistently now, we are seeing more and more the Magic's offensive struggles affect their defense. We are seeing more and more now the Magic unable to sustain their defensive effort when they miss shots. And look, the frustration is real. Orlando got a lot during Toronto's big run. Orlando got out to a 21-point lead. They made 5 of 10 3-pointers in the first quarter. They scored 37 points. They got the ball in the paint. They were the more energetic and enthusiastic team. The Magic showed us in that first quarter what Magic basketball is. But then Toronto cut into that deficit to end the first quarter. You could as the Magic broke their starting lineup, you could see the energy dissipate, the ability to create consistent offense disappear. The defense struggled to get itself going. And yes, because the Magic made a bunch of early threes, they started settling for threes. They made their first 5 threes, if I'm not mistaken, to go 5 for 10 in the first quarter. They struggled mightily from there. And then their defense wasn't there as a backstop. This game was lost. The Magic survived a 13-point second quarter. Again, this Magic defense should be good enough to survive some bad offense, especially with what they're missing. But the Magic once again came out of the locker room, got punched in the mouth, both honestly, literally and figuratively, gave up 40 points in the third quarter, and we're down 15. Game is over. They're not coming back from that with the injuries they're facing. They're giving up these massive runs, and their energy goes to zero. Again, we'll talk injuries here in a minute. We can't ignore that they're playing with 8 players. We can't ignore that the Magic are asking a lot of guys to do a lot of things that they're not prepared to do. They can do it some of the time. They can do it for a little bit. They can't do it consistently. They can't do it for 48 minutes. And on top of that, with Paolo Banchero still a little bit on a minute restriction, we'll talk more about his game in a minute, and still working his way back in, it's really hard. Like Paolo Banchero had been playing for the last month and a half, or the whole season, and the Magic at this point, we know Paolo would be able to step up. We know he'd be able to carry this team and give them that lift. He did it last year when the Magic faced injuries at this time of year. He doesn't have that in him right now. It's just not there. Not yet. Hopefully it'll be there by April, but it's not there right now. And so as the Magic recover, as the Magic figured themselves back out, they have to rely on their identity. Their identity is defense. The defense is not there. Plain and simple, full stop. That's all we can say. The defense is not there. The energy is not there. The intensity is not there. The physicality, just knowing where that line is between fouling and good defense, is not there. And the Magic are not going to win any games against any opponent. Could be the Raptors, a now 11, 12-win team. Could be the Blazers, who are playing really well as well right now. They're not going to beat anybody without this. This is who they are. And if the Magic can't find their energy, it's going to be a long, long season. The good news is Franz Wagner is expected back within the week. I personally find it very hard to believe that he will not be back by at least Saturday against the Pistons. Jalen Suggs does not seem too far behind him. Goga Bitadze is still going through the concussion protocol. He may be a little bit longer, but there are reinforcements coming. And the fact of the matter is, as much as we are concerned about all of these line items, injuries are the story. Let's talk about the injury factor, come up with some excuses coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. I love going to events. I started going to more concerts. I went to the Creed concert back in December. I'm going to Jurassic Park in concert. They're going to play the score to the movie, my favorite movie of all time. They're going to play that score live at the Dr. Phillips Center. I cannot wait. And as I was trying to find tickets to these events, find tickets to more concerts and shows around Central Florida, Game Time helps me find the best shows in town. Game Time has made it even easier to get tickets to your favorite events with their new feature, Game Time Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Like I said, I'm going to this concert at the Dr. Phillips Center. Not kind of the thing you see on Game Time. I'm not going to lie, the ticket selection wasn't great for this show. But as I was looking for concerts to go to Creed in December, or as I'm looking ahead to concerts that are coming into Central Florida, or looking ahead to Orlando City season, my sister and I are planning to go up to Gainesville to see the Gators play over All-Star Weekend. We're going to check out Game Time to make sure we get the best prices on seats to the big game. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. There's no denying. There's no denying what the story is for the Orlando Magic right now. If the Magic were fully healthy and had a game like this, we'd be having a very different conversation. With where the Magic are at, how they're playing, we'd be panicked. We'd be going crazy. We'd be like, this isn't what we signed up for. This is a problem. Trade deadline is coming. Let's go crazy. They gotta fix things. And look, I am coming around to the opinion that the Magic do have things they need to fix more immediately that may not be able to wait till the offseason. But I also understand the argument, understand the position that the Magic may not do anything at the deadline because they know what they're missing. At the end of the day, it's really hard to play a game with 8 players, to play an NBA game with 8 players, especially with the 8 players the Magic have. Like I said, if Paolo Banchero had been playing for a month or a month and a half, or been playing the whole season, we'd be a lot more confident that he could carry this team through all of what's going on. And look, he had a decent game. We'll break that down in a minute. But without a secondary scorer and creator in Franz Wagner, without the defensive aces in Jalen Suggs and Goga Bitadze, the Magic are down 3 of their 5 starters. They're not only down 3 of their 5 starters, they're down really 4 of their 5 best players, if you include Mo Wagner in there. It's hard for any team to have that many players redefine their roles and step up. Now, again, I think you can make a fair argument that, okay, part of the issue is the Magic have players who are all just one thing. I know I've made this point on the show already or on previous episodes, but I think the biggest issue with the Magic roster right now is everybody is just one thing. Caleb Houston is a shooter. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is a 3-and-D guy. He's more than one thing, but his offense is essentially just one thing. He's a little bit better of a passer, a little bit better of a dribble pull-up guy than I think we thought, but he's not creating for anybody in addition to being a shooter. Paolo and Franz are many things. Jalen Suggs is starting to be many things, but he struggled in that creator role. There's no doubt about it. The Magic don't have a lot of role versatility within their offense. They have a lot of guys who can play different positions, but they don't have a lot of players who do more than one thing. And I think ultimately, they're trying to develop it in Anthony Black, Tristan Da Silva has shown some hints of a playmaking knack. They're young enough that they should incubate a little bit and see if they have enough to grow. But that's not calming anyone's nerves. And when you look at this roster, there just isn't enough. I know the Magic will keep saying we are enough and we have enough, but even they are admitting they're running on fumes. That it's not just that they're hurt. It's that now there's an illness going around the team. Corey Joseph had it last week. Cole Anthony missed the game because of an illness, was feeling very, very sick. Jonathan Isaac tried to give it a go in the first half, pulled himself from the game, missed the second half. Tristan Da Silva did not have this specific illness when he pulled himself from the Sixers game, but the Magic are really struggling to just kind of find it. And look, if Cole Anthony plays in this game, that gives the Magic that second attacker. Anthony Black is coming off the bench to give them some boost at scoring off the bench. The Magic just don't have the depth of scoring to keep things up. And on top of that, while they have some very good individual defenders, there's a lot of inconsistency in how they defend right now. The Magic are trying to plug holes that just keep creating new holes. It's the story of the kid who put his thumb in the dam. And so if there's no panic in my voice, and there's no panic you sense from the Magic, it's because they know the issue is not them. They know the issue is not their process. They know the issue. We can debate whether that's the case or not offensively another day. They know that the issue is simply bodies. They played this game with 9 players and played the second half with 8. And that's including Paolo on a minute restriction, trying to figure himself out still. Now, having said that, yes, the Magic are good enough to beat this team. The Magic are good enough to be competitive. The fact that the Magic have played non-competitive games in the last 4 games is concerning. That is partly because of injuries. We can't acknowledge that as a contributing factor, but injuries are not the reason they are struggling. Injuries are not the reason why they can't be competitive. They are getting punched and faltering. And that's something deeper. That's a resiliency that we assume this team has. And I think generally this team does have, but they are struggling to find. They're struggling to kind of get themselves right. And again, injuries are a huge factor, but they are not the only factor. There are a lot of guys not playing to their potential. When you're playing with this many injuries, you can't beat yourself. And with the turnovers, with frankly how slow the Magic played on offense, how they let Toronto dictate the terms to them physically, how Wendell Carter struggled to get putbacks and finish around the basket, even though I think, except for his shooting, played an awesome game. Played a really good game. Just couldn't hit any of his offensive rebound putbacks. Couldn't hit any shots. And the Magic need that right now. Like, they need everybody to play well. And they're not getting everybody playing well. They're not getting these key players to step up the way that they were through December or in November. Health is going to help this team. Like, just plain and simple, getting Franz Wagner back is going to help. Even if it takes him a little while to get up to speed and get back to attacking aggressively, he is a threat the defense has to account for. Getting Jalen Suggs back and back to his kind of frenetic energy, that injection of energy is going to help. Goga Bitadze is an excellent defender. And honestly, these 4 games are proof that Goga Bitadze probably should be in the conversation for all defensive team or for defensive player of the year. Defensive player of the year is probably a little far. He should be in the conversation for all defensive team. I think these last 4 games have really proven that. You know, people know that I'm a Wendell Carter defender. Goga Bitadze is a starter for this team and should be the starter for this team for the foreseeable future. Getting all those bodies back and getting a bench that actually has talent that can compete is going to go a long way to allowing this team to win again. Injuries are the story here. They are a factor, and it's impossible to play for long stretches, especially with the intensity the Magic require with just 8 guys. It's why even though that Sixers win, the only win the Magic have in the last 5 or 6 games, even though that Sixers win felt like it was, oh, you needed to do that against a bad team, doing that with just 8 players for essentially the entire game was incredible. It's hard. I know there's a lot of teams that play 8-man rotations. They still have a couple guys they could go to if they need it. To do that long term is hard, and it wears you out. And we see that in every second half when the Magic try and reach back to their reserves and don't have it. Effort is not the issue. It's not. They're playing hard. Are they playing the way they need to play? Are they getting frustrated unnecessarily over misses and calls that aren't going their way? They're looking for help. They're looking for a way to breathe. And right now, it's just not there. It's just not. And so, frankly, what the Magic need more than anything else is relief. A win would help just kind of ease the burden a little bit. Getting guys back would lift everybody's spirits up and give them a little bit of an energy kick to help them recover. But these injuries are rough, and there's no getting around it at this point. Let's run through the box score, talk a little bit more about what we saw individually from this Magic loss. We'll talk about that coming up here in just a moment. The Orlando Magic fall to the Toronto Raptors 109-93. If it's not clear from what happened in this game, Orlando started off just really good. Like we saw what this team is capable of doing. We saw what this team can accomplish. They were really good to start this game. They opened up a 31-10 lead. They made their first 5 3-pointers. The ball was moving in and out. Like everybody was in rhythm, and it just looked really, there's just a good flow to the way this game went. I got to give the Magic credit, even though they gave up that lead. It got down to 2 at one point in the second quarter. Magic kicked that thing right back out to 11. Huge credit to Anthony Black on that. Anthony Black had a really, really nice game in a lot of ways. Really kept the tempo high, kept the energy high, was able to get to the basket a little bit, especially in the first half more than the second half. And that was a big energy boost to this team. So Orlando, again, just like the game against Denver, Orlando did some good things. They rebounded the ball really well. Great offensive rebounding game. They had some bad offense. They gave up some bad offensive rebounds in the second half. But generally, the Magic, great on offensive rebounds. They got second chance opportunities. They got in the paint a little bit more. They didn't shoot the ball great in the paint, but there were good things. But again, just too much bad. Too much missing open threes. Too much settling for threes. Orlando did only take 31 threes, which is probably a good number for them. Paolo Banchero at 7. He was 3 for 7 on 3-pointers. We'll get to Paolo here in a minute, but Orlando, I think just generally after they got off to such a hot start from 3, they just settled for threes. And Toronto, you got to give a lot of credit to Toronto. They've struggled a ton defensively this year. They played defense tonight like the Orlando Magic. They were just like, we don't care if we get beat. We are going to be in your chest. We are going to be physical and annoying, and the refs let them do it. The refs let them play with a ton of physicality, and Orlando just could not operate. They were struggling to just get into their sets. Toronto scored 18 points off 14 turnovers. The turnovers were a big factor in getting the Raptors back into the game through the first and second quarter, and then ultimately just they had the rhythm going. They broke down the Magic's defense. The defense for the Magic was not as disruptive. The more physical team's going to win, and usually that's the Magic. The Magic were just not physical enough in this game. Just plain and simple, did not have the physicality. Orlando got outscored 40-20 in the third quarter. In fact, Orlando had only 33 points in the second and third quarters after scoring 37. They had a 13-point lead at the end of the first quarter. It was cut down to 5 at halftime, 15 at the end of the third quarter. And again, the Magic just don't have the offense to overcome that. Orlando is wearing themselves out more than they're wearing out their opponents because, again, they just don't have enough bodies right now to make things work. Anthony Black, really nice game overall, though. I got to give him a ton of credit. 17 points. He was 6 for 17. Again, I don't mind him shooting a ton of shots. It usually means he's being aggressive getting downhill. He's 1 for 3 from 3. He missed shots around the rim. And frankly, like a lot of the Magic's problems were when they were able to get to the rim, they overcooked their shots. They missed shots around the basket. And so Orlando got the looks that they wanted and missed them, even the ones in the paint. It's not just about three-point shooting. That's a credit to Toronto for speeding them up, for really getting the pressure on them and making it so that they're struggling to just kind of keep pace. AB wanted to get downhill, did a great job of that in the first half. He had how many in the first half? He had 13 of his 17 in the first half. He was 4 for 8 in the first half, which makes him 2 for 9 in the second half. Toronto kind of flipped it. They were able to get him into more awkward shots. I like AB confident, and AB was confident in this game, but a big factor in this game. He had 7 rebounds, really, really nice game. 3 turnovers is rough, but just generally did a good job. Orlando was +6 with AB on the floor in a game. They lost by 16. That tells you something. So too does Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Kenny has had a really good run. It's been quiet because the Magic are losing. It's been quiet because it hasn't been completely his three-point shooting. Scored 20 points, 8 for 12 shooting, 2 for 5 from 3. Had a really bad miss later in the game. But Kenny is taking it upon himself to be a little bit more aggressive, especially hunting shots off the dribble. He's got a good 1 or 2 dribble pull-up. And he was making shots in this game. I like the Magic trying to get Kenny more shots. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope should get more shots. Paolo Banchero, let's talk about him. Good news. Played 32 minutes in this game. Some of that was by necessity. Jamal Mosley still hinted at the fact that was beyond his minute restriction for this game. But you know, Paolo looked fine. He looked like he could handle it. He had a really tough time with Scotty Barnes. Just plain and simple. I thought Scotty Barnes was really determined not to let the Magic switch off of him. And again, this was the Magic's offensive problem. They were running fast enough or intense enough to force that switch. The screens weren't set hard enough, and some of that is just bodies. Trevelyan Queen cannot set the same kind of screen that a Goga Batadze can, or that a Jalen Suggs can. The physicality was not there to get Paolo the kind of shots and the kind of looks that he needs. Paolo had 26 points. He was 10 for 19 from the floor, so not a bad shooting night. He was 3 for 7 from 3. That's not terrible. We'll live with that. Got to the line 7 times. He was 3 for 7 from the foul line. Some big miss. He missed 3 straight at the end of the second quarter when that really would have helped elevate the Magic, put them up by 11-12. I think it's a different game at that point. But Paolo, I thought Paolo was really good when he was able to get himself downhill. And the Magic just could not create situations consistently enough where Paolo could get downhill. He is still struggling, kind of reading defenses from a standstill. And again, I want to give a lot of credit to Scotty Barnes. Scotty Barnes played fantastic defense. Barnes had an okay game, 17 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists. More of a facilitator, frankly, than a scorer in this game. He got to his spots and hit some tough jumpers. Overall, I thought the Magic did okay on him generally. Scotty Barnes was determined to be the best defender on the floor, and he was. He really did a good job containing Paolo. And again, Paolo got his points. I'm not going to deny that. Paolo got his points and just did a good job making him work for everything and making him have to sit and read things. Barnes got his licks into, forced 5 turnovers, maybe not all 5 turnovers, but got a lot of those 5 turnovers. Did a good job just disrupting Paolo from getting to his spots cleanly and making him make decisions. And again, this Magic team right now just doesn't have a lot outside of Paolo as far as creation. So when he struggles, everyone is essentially going to struggle. Elephant in the room. Let's go Tristan da Silva. Tristan da Silva played 37.5 minutes, 9 points, 3 for 10 shooting. There's a lot of things I really like from Tristan. He was aggressive. He was trying to get downhill. Missed shots around the basket. He's 1 for 3 from 3. That makes him 2 for 7 inside the three-point line. Missed a lot of layups. Missed a lot of kind of shots around the rim. If he makes his shots, this is a very different game. But again, the Magic just struggling to find others to create. The elephant in the room is Wendell Carter. I'm a Wendell Carter defender. I'm not going to apologize for that. I thought Wendell Carter played a pretty solid game. Jakob Poeltl, who has killed the Magic for several years, 8 points, 3 rebounds. Wendell Carter deserves a lot of credit for keeping him off the glass. Paolo Banchero deserves a lot of credit for cleaning up the rebounds with 12 rebounds in this game. Carter had 10 rebounds, including 7 offensive rebounds. Wendell Carter was doing work tonight. I thought his defense was good. I know he fouled out eventually. He made some lazy fouls later in the game. I thought Wendell was really, really good, except at putting the ball in the hole. 7 of the Magic's 14 offensive rebounds came from Wendell Carter. Caleb Houston had 4 as well. But out of 14 offensive rebounds, the Magic had just 8 second chance points. 8 second chance points off 14 offensive rebounds. That is essentially throwing shots away. And look, Carter, this was like, this has been a thing all year, but this was the first game, at least for me, where I was like, man, those leg injuries, that foot injury, Carter already wasn't a great leaper, not a great second leaper. He really looks kind of slow. And even like some of his processing speed as a defender, some of his processing speed as an offensive player, especially, he wants to work really slowly, almost too slowly. And he just doesn't have the second jump you need. Vertical spacing has always been the biggest issue with Wendell Carter. He's just not an athlete. He's not going to he's going to grab a rebound, and then he needs to kind of rear up again before he jumps. And that allows defenses to recover, and that allows him to go 4 for 11 in a game where he should have been 10 for 11 with the kind of shots he was getting, with at least 8 of 11 or 9 of 11. There were very clearly like 5 shots Carter missed or didn't get that he should have because of where he was getting them and the positions he was getting them in. And if Carter makes those shots, the Magic, dare I say, might win this game. Again, the issue for the Orlando Magic is not that they're bad or that they're a bad team. It's that they need players to step up and play well. They need players to fill roles who are not typically asked or probably not capable of filling these roles. Wendell Carter is capable of this. But right now, he is struggling so much. He's not scoring in the paint. He's not scoring from the perimeter. It's really hard. It's really hard. But having said that, he is still their best screener. And using him as a screener, putting him in screening roles, putting him in, he likes to pop, but getting him to roll would go so far to helping this team. Again, the Magic just don't have enough right now. Trevelin Queen was 2 for 6. Jonathan Isaac's 0 for 3. Caleb Houston's 1 for 5. Corey Joseph's 1 for 2. That makes the Magic 4 for 16. No, sorry, 4 for 16 off the bench. They don't have a lot of bench players anyway. Just 9 guys available. Bruce Brown had 15 off the bench. Kelly Olynyk at 12 off the bench. Kelly Olynyk was plus 39 in 22 and a half minutes. Trevelin Queen was minus 32 in 22 minutes and 51 seconds. Caleb Houston was minus 26. This is what I mean by the injuries have really stretched this team thin. The Magic cannot put functional lineups out long enough. They don't have 48 minutes of functional lineups. Just plain and simple. And so, yes, a lot of guys have to play better. Just plain and simple. The Magic are not playing well. They deserve to lose these games. But injuries are a huge part of this story. They're gutting this roster. They don't have enough to succeed or don't have enough to compete right now. And, they'll have a game somewhere here soon. Even if Franz isn't back soon. They'll have a game somewhere here soon where it clicks and the momentum just builds and they'll be fine. They need guys back. They need Cole back. Again, if Cole Anthony plays, I think the Magic win this game. No offense to Toronto. They played really, really well. The Magic were fine, and then they just kind of ran out of gas. Cole plays, I think they're fine. J.I. plays the whole game. I don't know if that fixes their offense, but their defense with that second unit looks a lot better. The Magic are just missing so much, it's impossible for them to compete. And that's, again, it's just the reality of the situation. Plain and simple. The Toronto Raptors defeat the Orlando Magic 109-93. The Magic are back in action Thursday against the Portland Trailblazers. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all of me sell podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can follow us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, thank you for your support. As if all that's not enough, introducing the Locked On Magic daily newsletter, the one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. And start your day with the all-new free Locked On Magic newsletter. That's good to do for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Tomorrow on the show, most likely our big NBA trade deadline preview with a week to go. We'll chat about the deadline, where the Magic are at, what the Magic should do, what the Magic might need to wait to do. We'll get to that tomorrow. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Wright. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.